We got two stud muffins right over here on the big screen. DraftKings contributors Nick Friar and Matty Meiselman. Guys, the Warriors just dunk on the Mavs last night. They take a 3-0 series lead, one win away from the NBA Finals. Friar, why have the Warriors been so difficult to beat for Dallas?
Well, I mean, I just think when you look at Dallas, too, man, I mean, you got Jalen Brunson putting up 20 in that game. Dinwiddie's putting up 26. And obviously, Luka was a big part of that, comeback that was all for naught. 21 points in the fourth quarter and 40 overall in the game. I think you're just seeing right now with Dallas that, yes, Luka is blossoming and everything, and they have some solid pieces, but they're just not quite there. And the Warriors are obviously a complete team, even though they've been dealing with injuries. They know how to deal with this kind of stuff. This is what happens in the postseason, and their core pieces have been there before. So as much as I've liked the Mavericks run, this is why going into this series, this seemed like a clear, no questions asked, the Warriors are going to walk away with this one. I didn't think it was going to look like a sweep, but that's clearly what we're getting right now.
Yeah, Matty, the Mavs have been able to overcome their shortcomings this postseason with their three-point shooting, but when those shots are not falling, Warriors, they're a team that takes full advantage of that.
Yeah, so I have to try to figure out what's going on here because I picked Utah over Dallas, and then I picked Dallas over Golden State.
Oh,
so
God.
this is looking
You're the
really
worst.
good for
so
me
really,
right now.
we shouldn't be asking
awful.
we shouldn't be asking you your opinion on this because it's going to be wrong either way.
Next question. I can't do this one. No, I think Dallas's role players are just not playing like they did last round. I personally am not sure if last round was against Utah was the real version of the Mavs or if it's this version where Reggie Bullock just isn't good and Maxi Kleber just isn't good. I do think that those are solid players, and maybe they overachieved a little bit against the Jazz, and we shouldn't have expected such great things from them. What's really surprised me the most, though, is how depleted the Warriors have been during some of these games in terms of their roster, and that they've still managed to hold leads or come back in games. Like, we don't have Gary Payton II. We don't have Andre Iguodala. We have Draymond Green in foul trouble almost every night. Last night in the second half, there was no Otto Porter Jr., and Kevon Looney has turned into Shaquille O'Neal, basically. So if he's going to be a really good player now, then I have to reevaluate how I think about Golden State. But I do think Dallas is underachieving. Like, we've seen them miss tons of open threes. It's not like all these shots are contested. So it's a little bit of the Mavs playing worse than they really are. And it's a little bit of these Warriors role players really stepping up.
All right, teams with a 3-0 series lead have a 146-0 series record all time. Friar, I'll ask you this really quick, too. I've seen this question thrown around on social media quite a bit. Are the Warriors entering another dynasty here?
Oh, come on.
Come on,
I know
what?
we like entering another dynasty. That's what the question is now. That's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, you have to win the title for that to happen.
Yeah.
And second, you got to win multiple ones for that to happen. People just want the next big thing all the time.
Yeah.
They can never be satisfied with what they have in the moment.
Love it.
Get out of my face with that.
Love it, love it. Okay, sounds good. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Matty. Game 3 Saturday was ugly, riddled with injuries, and a boatload of turnovers. Look at you. Yeah, that's right. 23 by your Celtics, man. Can Ime and the media here stop pushing this quarters narrative, please, Matty?
I think I might be the one person who hates it more than you. It doesn't mean anything.
Thank you. This
It's
isn't
so
boxing.
silly.
It's not boxing, dude.
It's not boxing, and it's even worse than boxing because when you have a horrible quarter, it's actually easier to play well the next quarter because the other team lets off the gas a little and vice versa. Like, there are score effects in a basketball game where if a team's down a lot, the other team kind of lets them back in. They don't try as hard, and then it goes the other way. So, I can't possibly care any less about the quarters narrative.
Yeah. Friar, can the Celtics play something resembling a normal game? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of the teams in the league that's best at responding to terrible performances or choke performances. We saw it in the Milwaukee series. Obviously, they bounced back in Game 2 after the winning 3 quarters and losing the one against the Heat in Game 1. I do think that does mean something in the sense that when the Celtics are playing like crap, because that's exactly what they did in Game 3. I mean, some of the passes that they made were embarrassing. I don't know how this. I'm like in a rec league game, I would be embarrassed with some of the passes that Marcus Smart and Tatum and Brown were making. But yeah, I think of course they can bounce back. They just have to be like the team that they usually are. Because I don't think the Heat, honestly, like those 2 quarters, yeah, they've played well, but I think the Celtics have handed them both their wins this series.
Yeah, and I believe the Celtics, right, haven't lost back-to-back games this postseason. So they lose a game, they tend to respond pretty well.
Here's the jinx, everybody.
Okay, yes, that's right. Mark the tape. So Game 4, let's dive into it a little more here, Friar. Like, who's your top DFS play for Miami and Boston? Because these 2 injury reports, I'm looking at it, they're very long. Several star players, including Marcus Smart, Hero, Tatum, Butler, they're all on there.
This is why you got to make sure you're following DK Live over on Twitter, because we're going to keep you guys up to date on everything. Because I'm looking at this right now and thinking, all right, where's the value play that I'm going to find in this one? Of course, with Smart and Time Lord, questionable. I think Smart's going to play. I would think Time Lord less likely. Grant Williams is my favorite value option. We're looking at any of the value plays tonight. But if Smart doesn't play, Peyton Pritchard becomes a lot better at 5K. But I think Grant Williams is the safest one here because you know he's going to get minutes and you know he's going to get up some shots as well too, and of course active on the glass. From the Heat though, I think there is a little bit greater chance at value too, because you look at Victor Oladipo. If Jimmy Butler, even if he plays, I think Oladipo at 4.4K can be a really good option, just because we know he's going to get a decent amount of minutes, and we saw him put up some pretty decent fantasy numbers despite not taking only 4 shots in that last game. But if Kyle Lowry does not play, because he is questionable, and those are the only 2 guys when you're looking at questionable tags on the Heat side that you can take seriously. If Kyle Lowry does not play, Gabe Vincent is definitely going to be the best value option tonight.
All right, Matty, what do you want to do here? And obviously, people should probably wait until later tonight, start building those lineups a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really know yet, so I guess I'll just take this opportunity to weigh in a little more on the injury situations. I'm a little more concerned about Smart than I am about Robert Williams. Like the Smart ankle sprain, I don't know. I have no idea how he got back in that game. And he hit a 3 his first offensive possession, but he didn't look good. And he's as tough as he may be as tough as he should be playing for the Bruins. Like he's as tough as anyone in professional sports. And Jimmy Butler, I don't think his injury is as serious as Smart's injury. So Butler's fine. I think Butler plays. Lowry looked pretty good. I think he plays. The 2 players I'm most worried about sitting, I think, are Smart, because I think what Udoka has been saying about Robert Williams is it's just inflammation, and when he gets a few days off, he can just get back out there. We have to worry about him the rest of the series, but I think he'll be okay to play tonight. But I think Tyler Hero has a real chance to sit out this game. He played awful, and they don't really need him. He could be a DNP coach's decision, honestly, even if he's healthy, because Oladipo just dramatically outplayed him. And with Lowry back too, it's crazy that this didn't get talked about more, but even without Butler, Hero basically sat the 4th quarter because Lowry and Oladipo were just outplaying him to such an extent. And it's because Hero doesn't play defense. His defense is virtually non-existent. And defense is very important at this point in this. I mean, it's important always, but it's even more important right now. So I think Butler plays. I think Lowry plays. And then to Nick's point, I think you do want to look at Oladipo even in that scenario, because I could see him stealing Hero's minutes even if Hero's healthy.
All right, let's talk about player prop here, Friar. Which one is your favorite? I'm looking at Jason Tatum, 27.5. We mentioned the Celtics kind of bouncing back here. Look at this. Opening round, Tatum followed a 19-point performance in Game 2 with 39 in Game 3. Conference semifinals, 10 points in Game 3. Followed that up with 30 in Game 4.
Yep, 100%. I mean, I was hoping that we were going to see this at 29.5, never mind 27.5. And at -110 last I checked over on DK Sportsbook. I absolutely love this one tonight. I was trying to get a feel on his points plus assists or maybe points plus rebounds, but looking at what he's done in these last couple games too, he's only taken 14 and 13 shots. Obviously, last game was 3 for 14 from the floor and 1 for 7 from deep. I mean, that is cartoonishly bad. Jason Tatum is not going to have a back-to-back performance like that. As much as he's probable because of what that shoulder impingement thing that he's got going on, I'm not too worried about that. This is a guy who's, again, we've seen him step up in big moments. In the Celtics, they're in a must-win spot, so there's no chance he's going to leave it up for chance and not go and try and ram some points down their throats.
Yeah, is there a prop you like tonight, Matty? Bam Adebayo had 16 points in just the first 2 games of the series. We saw him explode in Game 3. His points total tonight is 16.5.
Well, if for some reason Butler doesn't play, then the over on that looks incredible. But okay, I do think Butler will be out there. So where I'm looking for now, I think without any news, I think the under on Marcus Smart at 14.5 points is reasonable. I could see him playing, but playing reduced minutes. So you could go points, rebounds, assists. He's going to do everything he can to play, but that doesn't mean he finishes the game. It doesn't mean he can play his full rotation. So I think looking at unders there makes some sense. And then if we do get some news, it kind of seems like the Celtics prefer using Peyton Pritchard over Derek White at this point in the playoffs. And especially if they have Robert Williams and Al Horford in the game already, the defense is going to be solid, and then it's easier to make up for Pritchard's defensive deficiencies. So I think that Pritchard probably does find himself playing a few extra minutes. And then if Smart's out, we'll see where that line gets to. It's actually not listed right now. So for now, it's the under on Smart, but I'd keep an eye on Pritchard too.
And then, Maddie, what's just your favorite bet? What's the bet in this game tonight? Current line, Celtics 6-point favorites at home, total 207.5 there.
So I'll give two things because I love the Mavericks for tomorrow because I think Otto Porter Jr. sits, and I think they'll try hard enough where they should win the game. But for tonight, it's a wait and see. And what I'm specifically waiting for is if Hero gets ruled out, I really like the under for the game because Hero is like the only player on the Heat roster where his offense vastly outpaces his defense. Most of the Miami players do it on both ends of the floor. And some of them are defense-only players like Bam Adebayo. Besides Game 3, he's really a defense-first guy. PJ Tucker is a defense-only guy for the most part. But Hero's the opposite. And if you take Hero out of the game, I think Miami's offense gets worse, and I think their defense gets better. So that probably brings the total of the game down from 207.5 to, let's say, like 204. So if you catch that news, I think the odds may be slow to update for that. But if Hero's ruled out, I think you can get the under, and you'll have some time to do it.
Yeah, he was terrible in Game 3, Friar, and was actually benched in favor of Victor Oladipo, who was phenomenal on defense there.
Yeah, he had 4 steals in that game too. But I'm looking over at the Celtics side of this because I do think they're going to respond. I do think they're going to win this game. And I think when you're trying to find the best way to get your bang for your buck here, looking at the Celtics points total, over 106.5. They should have gone over this last game. They missed 7 free throws when they had 30 attempts. If they just hit 4 of those, they go over this mark. But even then, when they've won throughout the postseason, they're hitting the over on this number. And last game was the first time they've gone under 107 points since Game 3 of their series versus the Bucks. So they've been hammering this, and tonight's a good time to hammer that.